Today's video is a little different because first of all I'm in the kitchen next to my new oven that's waiting to go in, and I'm recording later in the day. Today's video will be a bit ranty and quite angry, and that anger is directed towards the government. But not just the current government, although Liar Stalin is the worst Prime Minister I've ever seen, but every government from 1997 with Tony Blair's New Labour. Because ever since then, every successive government has gone out of its way to fuck the British people over. So today I may sound a bit right-wing, but rest assured, this video has nothing to do with race. It's mainly to do with culture. You see, Tony Blair, before he allegedly became a war criminal, pushed the idea of multiculturalism onto the British people. The idea that if we're short of doctors and nurses, we could just import them from abroad. And that would have been okay. But then lots of other people came over as well. And the British never asked for it. We never asked for mass, uncontrolled immigration, both legal and illegal. And given last week's local English elections, where the Reform Party made massive gains, surely to the rest of government that should say enough is enough. But today we learn just how fucking tone deaf Keir Starmer really is. More of that later. And I'm not a little Englander. Case in point, Mrs. Disgruntled is Irish. But I'm against people entering this country illegally, or entering this country in a way that's detrimental to British people. I mentioned this a few weeks ago, but back in the late 1990s and early 2000s, there was a massive influx of Eastern European construction workers. And of course, I have nothing against people trying to better themselves. But if you take two bricklayers, if one of them is, say, from Poland, and he's sharing a house with 5 other Polish men, he can easily undercut an English bricklayer who's got a wife and 2 kids to feed. But most Eastern Europeans, they learn the lingo of this country and they have shared values and standards because the UK until very recently was part of Europe. And to be blunt, if my plumbing needs attention, and that's not a euphemism, I'm not overly bothered if the plumber that fixes it is called Alex or Alexi. I just want to be able to take a dump. But in the last 20 years, Britain has changed so much from people who refuse to integrate, I barely recognise my own country. But on September the 11th, 2001, the world changed forever with the attacks on New York and the Pentagon. But despite there being countless terror attacks from radical Muslims, and I don't mean people in turbans riding skateboards and BMXs, despite countless terror attacks and 90% of the UK terror watch list being made up of followers of the religion of peace, this word Islamophobia appeared. And the mainstream media and government after government decided that anyone who criticised that religion, and I say religion, in my opinion, it's more of a death cult, they must be racist. Even though Islam is a religion, not a race. I just contradicted myself there. And I think what happened since 2001 is radical Muslims have become emboldened.
We woke up! We woke up! Yeah!
That's Tower Hamlets in London. So why, despite there being over 3,000 mosques in the UK, are those gentlemen praying in the street? In my opinion, it's because they can. It's a show of force. It's showing the indigenous population we can do whatever we fucking like, and we know the police are too terrified of being labelled as racist to stop us. Then add to that almost every British high street is littered with kebab houses, fried chicken shops and Turkish barbers. And it's an open secret that they are allegedly being used for drug dealing and or money laundering. And then since COVID, when we all got lazy, food delivery companies now employ often foreign couriers who are either using their own cars, going to places like McDonald's or KFC, where they huddle around the counter shouting angrily at the women behind the counter and generally being intimidating, or for bicycle couriers riding on the pavement on illegally modified e-bikes. A few days ago, The Telegraph ran an article that exposed that 2 out of 5 bicycle food couriers who work for a company which, if you wanted to deliver a kangaroo, that's one, 2 out of 5 who were stopped were, and this is a shock, illegal immigrants. No, never. The way it works is these riders are paying off the people traffickers who brought them to the UK illegally in the first place. So someone who is legally entitled to be here will take out a job with a cycle courier company and then rents out their identity. They're committing identity fraud on themselves. But of course, if that other person gets pulled up, the legitimate person can just say, oh, my bike was stolen. And it wouldn't surprise me if the same fucking thing is going on with taxi drivers. And I have no evidence for this. But I'm 47 years old. If 25 or even 20 years ago, I stumbled into a taxi rank and just slurred out where I wanted to go, 10 minutes later, I would be there. Whereas now, if you call a taxi in the UK, when the driver arrives, I mean, first of all, if you're a woman, there's a good chance you're going to get sexually assaulted. But get in, if you're lucky and the driver actually speaks English, you can't just go, I want to go to this road. It's, what postcode is it? Which way do you go? What's the fastest way? I'm thinking, mate, it's your fucking job. You're driving the car right now because I can't. And every fucking day the boats come across the channel. Tomorrow is the 80th anniversary of VE Day, when Britain and her allies defeated Nazi Germany. We can't stop fucking dinghies coming across the channel, full of military-aged men, many of whom are completely undocumented. We don't know what crimes they've already committed. What we do know is wherever you have large numbers of illegal migrants, crime goes through the roof, in particular crime against women and children. And if you're from outside the UK, Google this. Schools in England, if a migrant hotel opens up next to them or in the vicinity, they send letters to parents warning them not to let their children go to school alone. Because basically, we know we're importing fucking paedophiles, but everyone's so terrified of being called racist, there's nothing we can do about it. Controversial view, if I ran the country, the Kent coastline would look like the first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan. But whinging lefty liberals say, these people, they're fleeing wars. They aren't fleeing wars, they've come from fucking France. And we're now at the point where we have the descendants of people who came to this country from medieval backward cultures who want to impose their cultures and laws upon the UK.
Is there room for Sharia law in the UK? Well, let's test that, shall we? Tell me what you think about this. Recently in news, not in this country, abroad, where Sharia law applies, a 41-year-old man who wickedly raped a 3-year-old girl was publicly executed and shot by the police multiple times in front of the public. We can safely say that before anybody else thinks about doing something so monstrous, they will think twice. But then, is that something that can be applied in this country? No, I'm not pushing Sharia law, but when I hear stories like this and I am satisfied, you can never be really satisfied with the punishment of such an evil, monstrous act. But these things are happening, and they're happening in the UK. And what's the punishment for it, really? Let's discuss that, shall we? Pop it in the comments below. Was it wrong? Was it right? Would you like to see that kind of punishment applied in this country?
Okay, so the offender, the nonce, the pedo, I have very, very little sympathy. But the method of execution, the barbarity of it, that the police, the people who were there to protect the public, effectively carried out a public execution. They gunned him down in the street. In the UK, The last public hanging was 1868. That is still hundreds of years ahead of where this woman is. Also, with Sharia, and please Google this, back in 2017, so just 8 years ago, in Pakistan, a 12-year-old girl was raped. This video just got demonetized. Was raped, and the ruling of a Sharia court was that the rapist's sister, who was 16 years old, could be raped by the victim's brother. And she wants to bring that shit here. And the new government policy. Indian companies that register in the UK can import Indian employees, and bear in mind India, which is a country I love, and I've got Indian friends, but they have a nuclear weapons program and a space program. If they register in the UK, then Indian people can come to the UK and pay no national insurance for 3 years. Effectively, Keir Starmer's government has greenlit a policy to undercut every British worker. Keir, read the fucking room. That being said, India is a mostly Hindu country, and Hindus don't cause any problems for anyone else. So that's the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, fuck knows why you did. If you leave a like or a comment, that helps the algorithm. If you want to support me in making these videos, there's links to Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee. And as ever, thanks for watching. It's fucking terrible in the UK. In today's video, fuck it. You see, Tony Blair is the problem. My script's down there, I've not got my glasses on. And I'm not a little Englander. Case in point, Mrs. Disgruntled is Irish. Fuck it. That's Tower Hamlets in London, which has always been a shithole, but now it's worse. A few days ago, the Telegraph ran I went fucking Australian.